Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded worship service for today, April 18th, 2021, with Worship Associate Andy Hogg, and with music from Roomie Wood, Stephanie Galloway, Kim Angelo, and Gabe Hernandez. My sermon today is entitled, The Answer is Everything. We're glad you're here and that you've made Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation part of this day in your spiritual life, whether you're a regular viewer or you're joining us for the very first time. We're here every week on YouTube, and we will be at home at 510 North LaRue Street in Flagstaff as soon as it is safe to gather together in person. We're hoping to put together some plans for that beginning in June, and we will be sure to share all of the information about that once we have finalized it. Our congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door, and here we trust that you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth and for relevant religious exploration in a framework with very flexible borders. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, I invite you to light a chalice or a candle at home and join in the response words you will see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our interconnection. The mission and covenant of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community in the world. Please join me in reciting the mission and covenant. You will see the words on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. And now, Worship Associate Andy Hogg has some opening words for us.
The opening words are by David White. It's called Everything is Waiting for You. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of our surroundings. Surely you, even you at times, have felt the grand array, the swelling presence and the chorus, crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants your freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and to invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of our aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing, even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you.
Please join me in singing Life is the Greatest Gift of All. Life is the greatest gift of all the riches on this earth. Life and its creatures, great and small, of high and lowly birth. So treasure it and measure it with deeds of shining worth. Mind is the brightest gift of all, it's the Nobel Mars. It seeks creation's hidden plan, it quests surmounts our bars. It rains the wind, it chains the storm, it weighs the utmost stars. We are of life, its shining gift, the measure of all things. Up from the dust our temples lift, our vision soars on wings. For seed and root, for flower and fruit, our grateful spirit sings.
Now is the time in our service when you're invited to share a personal joy or sorrow and feel yourself held in the supportive presence of this community, even though we're apart. I have some things to share today. A stone of sadness and condolence on the death of our longtime and beloved congregant, Jack Roberts. He was a joy-filled, lovely, and interesting man. I am glad to have known him, even briefly, and he will be missed. His wife Jan and family are happy and would love to receive cards from you upon hearing this news. So this is for Jack. He always sat in the same place in the sanctuary, just smiled so broadly. Absolutely a ray of sunshine. For our congregant who will be having some surgery for breast cancer, we're hoping for the best possible outcome for her. And those of you in the community that are part of the Circle of Caring, we will be putting together some meals and other things for her once we know what the schedule will be. But we send her love and light and support for this process and journey and for her healing. To our two congregants that will be traveling to New York in a week to help care for a parent who is also going to be receiving treatment for cancer. It's a long drive with two dogs. These are two very active and much loved members of our congregation. So we send them with our love and light, holding them in safety, holding them in connection, while they care for others in their family. As always, for everyone pretty much around the world who is still coping with the coronavirus and the ramifications of that, the consequences, and also a sense of optimism that so many more of us are getting vaccinated or are able to get vaccinated. Let's continue to stay safe as more and more people can join that group and we can move ahead into a healthy future together. It's heartbreaking that every week I have a stone that is about gun violence or racism or something that has happened in this country that just doesn't need to be. Let us continue to bend towards justice, keep our eye on the prize, learn what it means to be an ally, and really work for change. This is for all of us, but particularly those who are at the receiving end of these injustices. And finally, my hope stone. It's really gotten us through many months, and my sermon today is very much about hope, grounded optimism. So may we stay hopeful. May we have our own everything and answer everything, even to the unpredictable and the scary. We are Beacon, always connected. We are connected and together in hope. In a moment, you will have some silence to speak your own joys and sorrows into a quiet place, knowing that we are holding them. You can also join us Sundays at 11 while we're still in our virtual mode on Zoom for our post-service gathering, where we share what's going on in our lives and we talk about the service, what's going on in the world, and we share joys and sorrows in real time. The links for the social hour are in the e-news on our website. So now we'll have some quiet time for our own joys and sorrows. I invite you now into that quiet place where we do intentional breathing together and move into our musical breathing meditation. It's part of the service every week, and it's an opportunity to really feel the power of intentional breathing and how it is our emotional, psychological, spiritual first aid. So I invite you to uncross your arms and legs and sit up and put down your phone or anything you might be holding. Close your eyes and just breathe. 4 beats in slowly through your nose and 5 or 6 beats out slowly through your mouth in a steady stream so that you can really feel the relaxing spaciousness effect of your breath. Let's just breathe together. Feel how you can create spaciousness from the crown of your head all the way down to where your feet are grounded to the earth. And just breathe. You can take little breath Sabbaths throughout the day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even 1 minute would be beneficial to bring the power of your breath to your reality, to whatever's happening in your life. So let's breathe. While you continue breathing, I offer this meditation today by Pema Chodron. Our whole life could be ritual. Our whole life could be ritual. We could learn to stop when the sun goes down and when the sun comes up. Our whole life could be ritual. We could learn to listen to the wind. We could learn to notice that it's raining or snowing or hailing or calm. Our whole life could be ritual. We could reconnect with the weather that is ourselves, and we could realize that that can be sad. The sadder it is, and the vaster it is, the more our heart opens, particularly to ourselves. Our whole life could be ritual. We could stop thinking that good practice is when it's smooth and calm, and bad practice when it's rough and dark. Our whole life could be ritual. If we could hold it all in our hearts, then we could make a proper cup of tea. Our whole life could be ritual. Let us continue breathing together as we move into our musical breathing meditation. 4 beats in through your nose slowly, 5 or 6 beats out through your mouth slowly in a steady stream.
Breathe in. Ooh, breathe out. Breathe in. Ooh, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe out, breathe out. Breathe in. Ooh, breathe out. Breathe in. Ooh, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe out, breathe out.
Our reading today is by Roger William Thomas. It's a wonderful story called Keep Your Fork. There was a woman named Helen who had been diagnosed with cancer, and she had been given just 3 months to live. Her doctor told her to start making preparations to die. So she contacted her pastor and had him come over to the house to discuss certain aspects of her final wishes. She told him which songs she wanted sung at her funeral, what scriptures she'd like to have read, and what she wanted to be wearing. The woman also told the pastor that she wanted to be buried with her favorite Bible. Everything was in order, and the pastor was preparing to leave when the woman suddenly remembered something very important to her. "There's one more thing," she said excitedly. "What's that?" the pastor replied. "This is very important. I want to be buried with a fork in my right hand." The pastor stood looking at the woman, not knowing quite what to say. "That shocks you, doesn't it?" the woman asked. "Well, to be honest, I am puzzled by your request." The woman explained, "In all my years of attending church socials and functions where food was involved, my favorite part was when whomever was clearing away the dishes of the main course would lean over and say, 'You can keep your fork.' It was my favorite part because I knew something better was coming. When they told me to keep my fork, I knew that something great was about to be given to me. It wasn't jello or pudding. You don't need a fork for that. It was chocolate cake or cherry pie. Something with substance. So I just want people to see me there in the casket with a fork in my hand, and I want them to wonder, what's with a fork? Then I want you to tell them, be hopeful. Something better is coming. So keep your fork too." The pastor's eyes welled up with tears, tears of joy, as he hugged the woman goodbye. He knew that this would be the last time that he would see her. But he also knew that Helen had a better grasp of life's blessings than he did. She knew something better was coming. At the funeral, people were walking by the woman's casket, and they saw the pretty blue dress and her favorite Bible and the fork placed in her right hand. Over and over, the pastor heard people question, "What's with the fork?" And over he smiled. During the eulogy, the pastor told the people of the conversation he had with Helen shortly before she died. He also told them about the fork and what it symbolized to her. The pastor told the people how he couldn't stop thinking about the fork, and told them that they probably wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it either. He said, "Keep your fork, and let it remind you, oh so gently, of Helen, and that something good is surely coming."
Some days I look in the mirror and I think the meanest things, all the meanest things. Some days I'm holding my self-worth up by a string. But every day that I don't hide myself away, to me is a tiny victory. Some days it feels like a wrecking ball swinging it's so easy to do. The struggle is slow, I'm barely moving that needle, and the cracks may be few, but there's light coming through. And if battles can win a war, I can keep digging my sword up off the floor and learn to treasure these tiny victories. Tiny victories. Tiny victories. Tiny victories. Every day that I don't hide myself away. Every day that I don't hide myself away. To me is a tiny victory.
My sermon today is entitled, "The Answer is Everything." I love the story that Andy just shared with us about Helen and her fork, and how it gently reminds us that something good is surely coming. Helen is quite a role model, isn't she? This woman facing death but embracing possibility absolutely epitomizes optimism, abundance, and faith. As a group, we Unitarian Universalists may not share Helen's theology or her view of the afterlife, but like her, we are hopeful people. And in our midst, we have very many wonderful role models of strength and graceful creative aging, too. These women are what I would call grounded optimists, and most of the time I am too. A real dyed-in-the-wool, half-full glass, triple-layer cake kind of gal. That's probably why I ended up being a Unitarian Universalist, because this liberal faith of ours is essentially an optimistic faith. My message this morning is one of hope and optimism. Of course, it would be irresponsible of me to suggest that life, a truly human life, is an either-or proposition. It isn't. Our lives and this world are composed of good news and bad news, controllable and uncontrollable forces, and a perfect life is an oxymoron. Our human predicament is a little like the infamous lost cat ad found in England and posted on the internet that I shared almost exactly a year ago when I preached about living deliberately in a random world. Perhaps I was psychic, given the pandemic year we've just experienced together. It's worth repeating. The ad reads, "Lost cat, old, mangy, one-eyed, limped, neutered, crippled." Answers to the name, lucky. Life can be like that. One day it's raining on our parades, and the next day we've experienced a moment of splendor and a break in the clouds. It's unpredictable. Triumph and tragedy, joy and sorrow, suffering and renewal, lockdowns and vaccinations. I haven't always been abundance-minded or able to see or believe in life's silver lining. In 1986, when I was 29 years old, my vivacious, lovely mother, Flora, died at the age of 55. It was heartbreaking and confusing to watch her suffer and deteriorate from a non-operable brain tumor. She had been looking forward to her own third act, becoming an interior decorator and adoring future grandchildren yet to be. Since then, I have come to realize how ill-equipped I was in so many ways to cope with the magnitude of that loss, the trauma of it. Despite the many exceptional older women role models I've encountered these past 35 years, The one I lacked was the very one that could enable me to envision my own third act, my own mother. Over the years, no matter how hard I had tried, I simply couldn't picture myself as a woman beyond 55. A friend suggested that I have an age progression photo of myself done. Well, I passed on that, but it was tempting. Anything to catch a glimpse of myself, silver-haired and etched with wisdom and a life fully lived, posing with grandchildren at high school graduations. Then something stunning happened. I was enjoying a glass of wine after conducting a wedding in November 2010, more than 10 years ago now. Wow. It was the last wedding in a very long season of weddings during which I had eaten my weight in hors d'oeuvres. Yet again, my voice was raggedy and hoarse as I shared my weariness with an older guest who was seated at my table. She looked at me warmly with sparkling blue eyes and she said, "You need to take care of yourself, Reverend. You're going to live a long time." I was dumbstruck. "How do you know that?" I asked quietly. "Well, because I do," she replied, her graceful smile framed by shiny silver hair. "Take care of yourself, Reverend. You're going to live a long time." This encounter caused me to examine just how little confidence I had in my longevity and the way that impacted on my daily wrestling match with life. How controlling I could be, how frantic I felt at times to get things accomplished, to see my children through milestones, to sustain normalcy. I would hold my breath for results from annual physicals and mammograms. At times I worried I was cursed and I was destined to repeat my mother's karma. I had trouble planning for old age because I didn't have any tangible sense of it. I was afraid of it. And some days it felt like I was just tearing pages off a calendar in some doomsday countdown. And then in 2011, 10 years ago, I grew tired of this cycle. I made a decision to set a new course and embark on a new road, and I moved from Boston home to Pittsburgh. And then on April 18th, 2012, 9 years ago today, I turned 55, the same age my mother had been when she passed. How could this be? It made no sense. I feel so young, so full of life. How could she have died at this age? I went to visit her grave on my birthday and read the inscription we had chosen, "Beautiful and noble spirit." And the tragedy of her early demise took on a new dimension. Later that day, I was walking my dog, and I was feeling a familiar malaise again. The old fear, the belief that the future had no shape and was too flimsy to grasp. And the question came to me somewhat self-pitying, given all my relative blessings. What can I look forward to? The toxic chatterbox in my head was stirring up trouble again. "Nothing," she sneered. The loop began. "I'm not partnered. I'm not sure what will happen next in my ministry or career. Really, what can I look forward to?" Nothing. As I ambled along Mifflin Avenue, crocuses were popping up through the spring soil, and a different voice, maybe the voice of that wise wedding guest, and maybe the voice of my mother, broke through the gremlin's drone and said softly, "Everything, Robin. You can look forward to everything if you choose to. Looking forward is a choice. Being willing to look forward to everything, come what may, is a decision that is open to you now, Robin." The answer is everything. And it was like the sun had come out on my soul. I believed in that moment that I was not my mother, that I was going to live a long time, and that I did have a choice. So I made it. I would look up, look out, and look forward. We all throw around the idea of epiphanies and revelations. Well, that one felt like the real deal. Buddha famously advised, you must let go of the life you planned in order to embrace the life awaiting you. That day, my 55th birthday, I loosened my death grip on mortality, and the abundance that I had yearned for has come to nestle in the open palms of my hands. I'm healthy, fit. I feel more peaceful than I have ever felt. My adult children are healthy. They're both happily married and engaged in their lives and careers. I have a precious granddaughter now. My ministry has flourished and grown. I walk daily here through cathedrals of trees and red rock. The answer is everything. Well, today, clearly it's my birthday. I sort of previewed that a little while ago, and today I turn 64. It seems like a small miracle to me. Through the dark days of aimlessness, I kept my fork. And I'm so glad I did, as there will be cake, not just at birthday parties, although chocolate, please, if you're baking, but in all the quiet moments of grace, bright moments of joy, and even in the dim moments of sorrow or fear. The answer is everything. Our former UUA president, Paul Carnes, echoes this view. He says, life is so great a blessing that every tomorrow we project, every time we aspire or dream, every time we set our alarm clock in faith that the sun will set to rise again, we bear witness to our optimism. Every time we keep our fork, in other words, we practice a resurrection of sorts as we rise again and again in hopefulness, as we have done this past year and continue to do. What can we look forward to? The answer is everything. Not surprisingly, it turns out that the key to staying healthy and living longer is attitude. Essentially, deciding that you're not old and decrepit despite any evidence to the contrary. I'm not even sure what it means to be old anymore. The humorist Bill Guest says you know you're old when, among other things, you wear a name tag as much for yourself as for other people, and happy hour is a nap. Nevertheless, in an article for the Chicago Sun-Times, Alexia Ruiz quips that those of us lucky enough to grow old or older must contend with miserable stereotypes of what it's like, the frailty, the forgetfulness, the early bird specials. Yet in aging, as in many things, attitude can make all the difference and has a greater impact on health, happiness, and longevity than the dates on our birth certificates. In a study at Harvard, psychologist Ellen Langer felt that expectation, not biology, leads many older people to set physical and intellectual limits on themselves. Langer concluded, they assume they'll fall apart, so they let it happen. They pull the plug on learning, growing, deepening, and connecting. Decline becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Through her research, Langer learned that people over 50 with more positive perceptions of aging, who are more willing to accept the inevitability of aging without denial, live nearly 8 years longer than those with negative stereotypes and attitudes. It turns out faith, meditation, and belonging to a religious community, just like Beacon, can lead to a longer and more fulfilling life too. So stick around or come see us for the first time. Langer writes, the misery myth is one of the most pernicious myths because when you think the future is really bleak, you don't plan. But when you think, I'm going to be the coolest 80-year-old who launches a line of hip clothing for older people, there is so much possibility. These findings conjure up for me the memory of an elderly woman I came to admire so much in a previous ministry. Her name was Thelma. She was often known to proclaim, "This has been a perfect day." It was her trademark phrase, even though she was nearly blind and crippled with arthritis. She used to say that all she needed was a pinky full of hope. In her case, it was a gnarled and throbbing pinky, but so much hope, faith, and simple gratitude in that one small digit. Both Helen and Thelma would tell you there is cake in all of it, all of life, even the hard parts, even the strange and challenging year we've just lived through. And neither of them would fib about death because they accept that life is finite. Many forces in Western cultures have conditioned us to be afraid of this, to fear aging. We joke that 50 is the new 35, and although this may be truer than in previous generations, it will not stave off an eventual end time. We are all in the line. But we are poised, you and me, between the inevitable and the possible. There is an alternative to fear and loathing, and it is this: using our finitude as a spur to lean into abundance and living with courage and optimism rather than dread, to drink from a half-full glass, to proceed with what the theologian Paul Tillich called the courage to be in the face of our finitude, to push life out of our inner tombs of pain, fear, preconceived inevitabilities, and disappointment, to answer everything to the question of what life might offer you or teach you. I stand here looking out through my web camera at a beloved congregation of people who have had their share of glories and regrets. Oh, I have too. And I ask myself, would I live the same life? Do I have a do-over option? No. Will the future be a proverbial bowl of cherries? Unlikely. No, I am not looking forward to creaky limbs, forgetfulness, or gravity. But I am not going to wait until I'm 80 to don my purple hat and go out and have fun with this weary, wonderful world. As I approach each birthday, I'm elated to have what the actress Laura Linney calls the privilege of aging. And in some ways, I've decided I've been living this miraculous third act for all of the years, the decades my mom never got. How about you? Can you answer everything to some part of a future you doubted or feared? Will you lean into abundance? None of us knows the future, yet we can only be open to it and bring our inherent you optimism into that future if we are not afraid of its ugliness or unpredictability, and if we are not too cynical about its potential. Ironically, the story is often told that when we get to the gates of heaven, St. Peter, if there is such an individual, will not ask what we hope for in the next world, but whether we lived this one to the fullest. Along with Thelma and Helen, I encourage you to live and age as fully and creatively as possible. Fork in one hand, half full glass in the other, prepared for the worst, yet seeking the best, holding on to what is good without ignoring the heartbreak. So keep your fork, even though we struggle some days just to get out of bed. Keep your fork, even if you are down to your last pinky full of hope, and what is good often feels like it is slipping through your fingers. Keep your fork, even though optimists like Thelma and Helen and Flora die too. Keep your fork and live your own everything into this world. It has been said that if a person gives up hope, he has entered the gates of hell, whether he knows it or not, and has left behind his own humanity. Everything is waiting for you. So keep your fork close at hand. And when people ask, what's with the fork? Tell them and yourself, I'm leaving room for cake. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Please join me in singing Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faithful quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why. In our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high. Spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
The spirit of generosity and gratitude and everything, that spirit, it runs through Beacon. And whether we are here in our virtual sanctuary or here in our physical sanctuary, we take an offering each week to support Beacon and our programs. There are two ways for you to donate today. You can go to our website, www.beaconuu.com, find the donate button, and make a secure online donation through the Vanco application. If you use this method, we ask that you donate directly from a bank account rather than a debit or credit card to save us some fees, so there's more to support Beacon, particularly during a more challenging time. Or you can send us a check to 510 North LaRue Street, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001, and please put offering in the note. Either way, we are so grateful for your generosity to Beacon and the generosity you've shown this entire year as we've moved together through, as I said, a more challenging time for our congregation. But looking ahead, as I said in my sermon, the answer is everything, and we will be together again as soon as possible. And at the end of our service, we come together and we hold hands, and we can feel the warmth and the strength and the connection of this community. So I invite you to imagine us all together, holding hands here in our lovely light-filled space with the view of the peaks through the window, feeling that whether we are together or apart, we are Beacon, always connected. Stay safe and well. Reach out to me anytime at minister@beaconuu.com. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen. Andy has some closing words for us.
Our closing words today are by a well-published author, anonymous. It's called We're All in the Line. Every minute, someone leaves this world behind. We're all in the line without knowing it. You never know how many people are before us. You cannot move to the back of the line. You can't step out of the line. You cannot avoid the line. So while we wait in line, make memories count. Make priorities. Make the time. Make your gifts known. Make a nobody feel like a somebody. Make your voice heard. Make small things big. Make someone smile. Make the change. Make love. Make up. Make peace. Make sure to tell your people that they are loved. Make sure to have no regrets. Make sure you are ready.
Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. It's alright. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. It's alright. Here comes the sun.